I've never done this with two people before. Have you also never tried teleporting a fully functioning brain that's still in a skull? I mean, look at me. Do you know how much the Thalia charges to press that shirt? Are you aware that I have a show to do for King Rold in 6 days? I'm supposed to be practicing. You were there. King Rold's a hard ass. And cheap. Dude, I'm really gonna need you to calm down. Look at you. Worried about your shirt and your career as a court jester? Was that what you were worried about when you killed that baby demon? Wait, you saw that? No man, you met me in jail, but can't you hear that the whole town is talking about it? You were so focused that you hardly noticed, but bro, you're kind of a hero. Well, sure I am, but heroes don't get a consistent paycheck from fighting evil. They have to work, and I think that's going to prove very difficult with 2 left feet, and I'm pretty sure these are both your legs. Don't look, but consider yourself lucky that you got my half from the waist down. Come on, we just have a short walk to the Makeover Mage, and then we'll be able to get this all sorted out.
One head up there. 2 heads down there. Yeah, I'm a RuneScape player. I've never seen a pair of genitals. I'm afraid there's only one person I know that can help you. A wise old man by the name of... Wise old man.
I don't wanna think too much. I don't wanna die too young. I still don't wanna go outside. 'Cause everything sucks. Everything.
Ah, yes, I've seen it before. I know what you two were doing. I've had my fair share of shame walking with my friends into the emergency room. Did you know that if you tie 2 whips together, you can fit them both?
Hey, maybe we should focus on the task at hand here and separate us. I assure you this isn't what it looks like.
Ah, very well. Yes, there is only one way that you two can separate. You two need each other. Whether you know it or not, you need each other, at least for right now. Souls only mesh together when there are 2 broken halves looking for a whole. Soulmates, if you will. If you want to separate, you'll have to prove to your individual souls that you don't need the company and become completely content with oneself.
Wait, how are we supposed to feel fulfilled with our individual selves when we have to share one body?
Oh, I'm sure there's enough episodes in the series to explain that away.
Oh my god. You're telling me I have to learn to like Stinky Jail Dude. Alright, that's it.
Spoof, he's hanging himself.
Hey,
he's hanging
Quistman,
you.
stop.
He's hanging you both.
We'll get through this. We got this. So with that, Quistman and I were back off to where we came from. I bought him a bond, and we got him some free combat XP to make up for the nausea. So Almera is worried sick about her little boy, so she sends a stranger and full-grown man out to make sure that nobody kidnapped him. Hudden has a terrible name and an even more terrible attitude, so I consider kidnapping him and pushing him into the river while nobody is looking, but Quistman persuaded me not to because that goes against the quest we were given. Hudden accused us of trying to steal the treasure of the falls from him, which, yep, we were gonna scam the little dork. But we just say fuck it and throw ourselves into the waterfall, washing up on shore half dead, deciding that now would be a great time to visit the visitor center and start reading their books to make sure we haven't sustained too much brain damage and can still read. By the grace of God, our intuition serves us right once again, as we learn about the lost secret of the falls and presumably the treasure that Hudden was talking about. We find out that after the fall of the Fourth Age, which was the most recent age, much of history was lost. Included in this was the history of the very falls named after a master of nature, Baxtorian, and his lover Glariel. The two would teach ways of nature and lived in peace until there was trouble out west and Baxtorian went home on a great campaign. While he was away, his people were slaughtered and his wife taken by the enemy. He would search for her, but to no avail, finally returning to the falls where he'd once made a home for Glariel. Upon his return, nobody has been able to enter the falls ever since. Among that info, we learn that Glariel's Pebble, another lost relic from the 4th Age, was taken by a gnome family long ago. This is our goal, so we set off to the tree gnomes to find the pebble. We trade a key for the pebble, which is the key to Glariel's grave, and then we can go and enter the tomb. As to why we are wanting to disrupt this grave, it's not really for the treasure, it's just to rub it in Hudden's stupid little face. So, gotta put this pebble into Glariel's grave, then enter and find her urn and her amulet. Gotta go back to the falls and make it to the last room, where we reunite Glariel and Baxtorian. I mean, I think that's what we're doing at least. The game really doesn't tell you what the hell we're doing here, but we solve the puzzle by placing a bunch of runes around the room and placing Glariel's necklace on the statue of her in the middle of the room. This lowers a chalice, which we pour her ashes into and get a reward. I'm very confused by what I just did. I think I reunited Glariel with Baxtorian, who entered these falls and never left, but he's not here. Unless he's that statue of Baxtorian. I really don't know what's going on here. Maybe I need to go do the other storylines first and stop doing stuff out of order. But this is everybody's first quest, so I figured I'd go over it with the context that the average player would have. One more thing that I want to add here is that I mentioned the fall of the 4th Age and how many parts of history were lost from this time. I want to give you the timeline of the ages up until now. In the First Age, the world of RuneScape was born from 3 gods, Saradomin, Zamorak, and Guthix. Much of this era was said to be used by the gods to make the land, the sea, the plants, and animals. This age lasted about 4,000 years. The Second Age was the age where the gods walked, lasting about 2,000 years. This was the era that many intelligent mortal races began to form civilizations in RuneScape. It's also said that the gods communicated with the mortals much more directly than they do now. The Third Age might sound familiar. It's 4,000 years long and is the era of the God Wars. The 3 gods were at war, bringing the fate of humanity to the brink of extinction, until an agreement was struck where the 3 gods decided not to fight their holy wars here on Gielinor in fear of destroying the land. They would continue to garner influence only through worship among the lesser races. The Fourth Age was the age of the mortals, where most humans were able to reproduce safely now that the god wars were over. This age birthed populations of many of the races that we see here on Gielinor today, but because there's so many groups that were trying to establish in the new world, there were often conflicts that halted progress and the growth between the communities. No one race reigned supreme in this age. That was until a group of wizards discovered the runestones. With the knowledge of harboring magic from the runestones, this allowed many humans, not just wizards, to become the dominant species through the power of magic. This leads into the 5th and current age of RuneScape, the Age of the Humans. Here's where the humans went from living in small tribes to building great cities like the ones we see in-game. And now, the year is 169 in the 5th Age. This next quote from the wiki really got me excited to keep playing the rest of these quests. Now, the enemies of Misthalin, Asgarnia, and Kandarin are beginning to find footholds in the lands again, with dark corners everywhere. New heroes must arise to maintain order and stop the collapse of civilization under the forces of evil. God, that's just so cool to me. This is one of the many times that I'm going to beg you to actually read these quests for yourself. There's a high likelihood that you'll have to spend thousands of hours in Gielinor, so please don't walk around this world without learning about the history. The game is 20 years old itself, and it's still going. The game itself is history, so come take part in that. Now with that out of the way, this is where I'm going to start going out of order so I can go in order from first quest in a series to last. The first series of quests we're starting with is going to be the Demon Slayer series, so we can put this arc behind us right away. We start off the quest, Shadow of the Storm, by talking to Father Reen, who tells us of a demon named Agrith Nar, and he wants us to help us summon it. And then kill it with our demon-slaying sword. We set off to the desert to meet Father Badin, who tells us of Danath, who was a wizard that was part of the group that summoned Delrith. Father Baden suspects that Danath is up to something fishy, but he hasn't caught him doing anything yet. He wants us to join the evil gang of wizards and find out what Danath is up to. The evil gang wears black, and my sword needs to be dyed before I can join the group. Dave, I could walk out of this cave and let you find another adventurer to stumble across your secret hideout in the middle of the desert while wearing all black. Or you could let me in. Dave will take us to Danath, who tells us that he wants us to help summon Agreth Nar, saying that once we do, he will grant us anything that our heart desires. Don't worry guys, the group of wizards standing in the middle of a pentagram, full of outlandish promises that are sure to come after completing the summoning of this dark demon, they're not a cult. I asked. Dave said they play Gnome Ball every other weekend out of uniform. They're totally normal. We're given a few tasks to complete by Danath, like getting a demonic sigil for the ritual and memorizing the incantation for said ritual. As I'm collecting my sigil, I decide to ask around the group and find out that Matthew saw Joseph, one of the other members, was reading Danath's secret journal last night. Matthew then saw Danath chase Joseph into the cave and then into the portal at the end of the room, and eventually only Danath came out of it, but without the book. He thinks that Danath killed Joseph for finding out some information that he shouldn't have, and tells us to check the outside area where they came in for the book in case that Joseph stashed it somewhere while he was being chased. We find the book, and figure out that the book simply holds the incantation that Danath taught us to summon Agreth Nar, but one major difference. The incantation in the book is backwards, or rather the one that Danath taught us is backwards. We tell this to the group, who don't really know why that would be worth killing over. However, they're afraid to bring that up because they might get killed as well, so we continue with the ritual, and I prepare to kill a demon. Once the ritual is completed, however, Danath vanishes. Matthew of the group exclaims that we're all fools. Danath was Agreth Nar, manifesting as Danath, and by reciting the summoning ritual backwards, we assisted the demon in getting back to his own dimension, where he can wreak havoc on the world out of harm's way. The group, having scattered in confusion and fear, needs to be corralled back to the circle so we can do the incantation properly and re-summon Agreth Nar, killing him like we were supposed to do. We head through the portal where Dave and Tanya went, and we see Tanya get killed by ghosts. We tell Evil Dave to get back to the circle and take Tanya's sigil. Then we go find Eric, who's fried while on the clock. Wait, no, that says died from falling rocks. So we take his sigil as well, and we find some new members to help us with the summoning ritual. To do this, we went outside and asked Father Reen and Father Baden to take the sigils and to help out. But we're still missing one member though, so we have to ask the golem that watches over to put on his best pair of human hands and hold this sigil. He says that he's programmed not to enter the cave, so we turn a key in his head and take out the programming that will now allow him to enter. We all then repeat the incantation the correct way, and Agreth Nar didn't get far in his dimension because now he's back in this one, and this dimension hates demons. We have an epic battle, while I think of all the lives that I'm currently saving, all the wrongdoings in the world that can be righted with this act, and finally the demon is defeated. Quistman can now bask in the glory of a second demon kill, this time with the admiration of others, not the ire of the law. Also, yeah, I know, we chose defense XP. I didn't want this. Quistman said that he either was getting a pair of dragon boots or he's leaving. He was tired of getting sand in between his toes with the holy sandals. He's just a baby. Along with the quest series, there are also many standalone quests in RuneScape that tell their own self-contained stories. I'll be covering a few of these per episode, but I won't be giving them quite as much detail as the main storylines. Alright, we're gonna do Druidic Ritual. The Black Dragon Calamite tells us a very familiar story of some dark wizards that corrupted the stones south of Varrock, and he wants us to purify those stones so that they will be uncorrupted and once again be of use to him in his magics. He directs us to Sandview. Sandview says, in a suspiciously bear-like tone, that he doesn't have enough meat. Sounds like something a bear would say. Sandview needs the meats to make a purification potion, 4 pieces of not just any kind of meat. The meat needs to be dipped into the Cauldron of Thunder, which is also the name of my garage band. He needs thunderized chicken, rat, beef, and bear. Oh, okay, maybe it's not a bear. Just can't be too sure. I'm the meat man, and I'm on my way to the Cauldron of Thunder. I get shaken down by some hooligans, but I assert my dominance by bare-hand bashing dents into animated suits of armor. Now my meat's turning blue. Probably too much edging. But I blew my blue meat at Sandview for a treat, and this quest I complete by talking to Calamite. His name's actually Cake Mix, which I just figured out, and I had that realization in 2024 instead of 2007 because my brain wasn't fully developed yet. Probably still isn't. Quistman, look! Keen fighter sought to deal with troublesome monster. Reward offered. Speak to Sarah at South Falador Farm for details. A porcine of interest starts by investigating a monster that attacked Sarah in her produce cart. Sarah told us to check around where she was attacked for clues, as she couldn't see the monster in the dark of night. The trail of produce leads to a hole, that of which we go down into and find a note. The writer of the note slipped down here and his rope fell into the cave, and he warns anyone reading to get out while they can. It's right behind me, isn't it? We're knocked unconscious, but luckily this hooded figure comes to our rescue just in time. We wake up in a stranger's bed.
I told you to thank me for my lower half, Quistman.
And Spira explains that Sourhog's spit is acidic, and we'll need some special goggles in order to fight them. Luckily, she's a Slayer Master and can give us a pair for free. We return to the Sourhog. A fight ensues, and then we return to Sarah for some coins, and Spira for 30 free Slayer points. If you're starting a new account, do this quest before starting Slayer. It's a free 30 Slayer points. These next 2 quests are pretty short, so I'm just going to do them at the same time. Garden of Tranquility has you playing gardener for Castle Goblins, and then you return and capture with rare to the battlefield. The joke is that it's called Garden of Tranquility, and the king and queen are fighting about the new garden. Animal magnetism involves helping Ava get a new bed. Ava is visually insane, so it only makes sense that she wants 2 undead chickens to improve her bed. Right. I'll get right on that, Ava. To get the undead chickens, we have to visit the farm in Mauritania where they farm said chickens. Alice, the human on the farm, says that we have to talk to her husband, the ghost farmer, if we want those chickens. We talk to him, and this starts a game of telephone with the wife and the farmer. We go back and forth until Alice asks us to find out where Farmer Malcolm left their savings account, but Malcolm doesn't trust us with the password to the savings account. It's just in the bank anyway, I mean, not like we can go get it. Kinda gotta be her. So now we have to alter our Ghost Speak amulet for Alice to wear. The reason is because she's tried wearing one before to talk to her husband, but she got freaked out by the talking cows and ghost chickens. A love that truly knows no bounds, unless those bounds are pale green farm animals. Once we get the amulet, Alice will only be able to talk to ghostly humans instead of all ghosts, and Malcolm will give us all of our chickens, but here is where we meet the infamous cow killer 1337, who takes out Bessie. Malcolm still bags the chickens for us, but asks for 10 ecto tokens each. Come on, man. We get the tokens and we finally leave with our undead mattress stuffing. Ava thanks us for the feathers of the undead chicken, which she says are cleaner than regular feathers because they don't have any dust mites. She also says that the other chicken we brought her may be able to be used to produce an unlimited amount of feathers, which can then be used for an unlimited amount of arrows, and she has an idea for a device that can do this. Bringing the witch next door 5 iron bars will have her make us a special iron bar that we have to take to the mine just north of here and hit with a hammer while facing north, which will magnetize the bar. Next, we need a piece of spiritual wood for the arrow shafts. Ava says that the living trees outside would make for a good contender, so we attempt to cut the trees, but our axe won't cut it. Ava says that we need an item called the Holy Chainsaw and that we should speak to Turiel, because for some reason this Slayer Master knows about blessed axes. Ava then just needs us to sort out the schematics of the device for her. I have no idea what I'm doing here, I totally just looked it up. But stitch together some leather and some buttons for the backpack and then hand it all into Ava for Ava's device. The chicken uses the magnet to draw in arrowheads from the earth. Then the chicken fletches the holy wood into arrow shafts and uses his unlimited feathers as arrow flights, which will allow for an unlimited supply of steel arrows. But the main reason we use this device is to have the chicken retrieve the arrows fired from our quiver and immediately put them back for them to be fired again. Put that all together and you have one of the zaniest in-game items I think I've ever seen. Animal magnetism, everybody. And now, Questman and I are headed back to Lumbridge, where we will begin our second quest line, the Dorgeshan quests. Can you guess what the Lost Tribe is about? Sigmund in Lumbridge Castle will tell us of some damage that occurred in the castle cellar. He wants us to ask around town to see if anybody saw what happened. Bob's from Bob's Axes will tell us that last night, while he was in the kitchen getting a snack, he saw a creature go down into the cellar. When he chased the creature, he said that it darted into the hole in the wall, and he informed the Duke and the others of this, but no one would believe him. The creature must have patched the hole in the wall since we have to go mine the rocks out of the way to investigate. We collect a brooch from the entrance of the underground tunnel network, then show it to the Duke. Sigmund says that the goblins couldn't have crafted something so high quality, and that they must have stolen it from someone, and even if it wasn't stolen from them, they should be punished, suggesting a crusade on the goblin people and annual goblin-killing parades. I ignore this blatant judge of character and continue to help the psychopath. If you thought you could keep me away from Reldo, you've got another thing coming. That handsome devil points us towards a book that we have to go find, and then we can go ahead and learn about the brooch. We learn that the goblins, while always having war at the heart of their tribe, were once more organized than the goblins of today, who are much more intellectually challenged. There are 12 distinct goblin tribes, and they all had specific symbols that distinguished them, and those symbols seem awfully similar to the brooch that we found. Higher ranking, higher ranking, higher ranking. Got it. We believe that the goblin generals Wartface and Bentnose may be able to help identify the symbol for us, being high in rank. I'm fucking leaving it in. Being higher ranking members of the goblins. In typical goblin fashion, the two will argue over who's correct about the information that they give us. We learn that the goblins worshipped a big high war god, and the Dorgish tribes were sent to fight either the dwarfs or the giants, but the generals can't really decide who they were sent to fight. Whoever they were sent for, they refused to fight, and were therefore punished by the big high war god and banished underground. Wartface and Bentnose then teach us 2 goblin greetings so we can try to go meet the Lost Tribe, and we go set off to do some alien hunting. I get lost in the cave before I find someone to talk to, a goblin named Mistag who pleads for his life until I do the secret handshake and he knows that I'm chill. He explains the situation, telling us that the goblins were just mining, following a seam in the cave when they accidentally broke through the cellar wall. Mistag and the others don't want any trouble with the humans, and urges us to go extinguish any hostility. We tell the Duke that the brooch did belong to the goblins, and they didn't steal it or anything from the cellar, and they just want peace with the humans. Sigmund calls us a goblin lover, and I will absolutely be using that as an insult from here on out. Quistman really wanted a pet goblin, so he insisted that since the goblins mean no harm, we should just let them be. But the Duke informs us that there actually was some harm done. Some silverware has gone missing, and unless it's returned, he will have to retaliate with war? Is RuneScape a democracy? Because who the hell voted this guy in? Quistman and I are suspicious. It didn't seem like the goblins would have much use for a few forks and spoons. We decided to investigate Sigmund's room, and in his dresser we find a ham robe. This is important because ham stands for humans against monsters, and goblins not being human, they must be monsters. And Sigmund acting so adamant about getting rid of these monsters is even more suspicious yet. We ask if the Duke knows about Sigmund's affiliation, and while he does agree that it is strange, it isn't illegal, so there's nothing he can do. Ah, a real officer of the law. Wait until something happens, then react to it instead of trying to be proactive. Quistman and I rush to the ham hideout, which, by the way, if the organization has to have a hideout, maybe that's an indication for the group to be something for the Duke to look into, no? You don't even want to talk to the guy about it? Or to the goblins about it? You're just gonna blame the goblins because they're green. I'm just pointing out how that looks. In the hideout, we search a crate and we find the missing silverware, and we return it to the Duke so we can accuse Sigmund of the deeds that he committed and framed the goblins for. The Duke will then promptly fire Sigmund from his service, and the Lumbridge peace treaty will be signed by the Duke and the leader of the Dorgashun, Urtag, completing the first quest in the Goblin series. After we ensure the safety of the goblins against the people of Gielinor, the Death to the Dorgashun quest has us helping the goblin tribe associate with the surface. They've never been to the surface before and wish to see what it has to offer, but they're also concerned about the nearby ham members having plans to destroy their tribe. Gee, I wonder where those concerns stemmed from. Mistag asks us that we bring a scout along with us so that they can gather information, so we acquire 2 sets of ham robes as disguises so we can spy on the ham members without drawing attention, and then we go meet our partner in the Lumbridge cellar. I love Zanuck. I love Zanuck. This is Zanuck, a bug-eyed goblin that will be joining us on our espionage mission. But first, we have to take her on a tour of the town, and she promises to explain the strange mark on her forehead if we complete a tour. We introduce Zanuck to the Lumbridge goblins, who she finds to be rather brutish compared to her own tribe. Then we have her meet the Duke, who asks that the goblins open the gate to the city to allow humans to travel and trade within the tribe. Zanuck says that the council is very slow to make decisions, but perhaps the Duke can talk with them personally after this tour. Then finally, Zanuck wants to browse the local shops to see what the humans are buying here on the surface. After an honestly too long tour of Lumbridge, Zanuck trusts us enough to tell us the story of the mark on her forehead. Zanuck was at the Tears of Guthix, but instead of getting ranging XP, she got knocked out by a speeding symbol to the forehead. Juna, the snake, says that this is not typical for the Tears, and that Zanuck must have been marked by the Tears for a special purpose. Juna couldn't explain at the time, but Zanuck was told that one day the sign will glow, and that's when Zanuck will know to return to Juna to hear about her destiny. Zanuck says that she's been wondering about the sign ever since, and that maybe Quistman can help her figure out what it all means, but for now, we should be off to the ham hideout to do some more spy work. Zanuck will notice a trap door that our human eyes would have never been able to see, and we come to the conclusion that down here must be where the ham members are making their plans. There's a typical problem of too many bodyguards that we would normally be able to fight with no problem, but because it's a quest, they will capture and reset us if we get caught. So the plan is Quistman and I distract the guards while Zanuck goes and gets some legendary crossbow shots.
Listen, I don't know what kind of gun that is.
After quite a fun stealth puzzle, we can listen in on the evildoer's plans. Well, Zanuck's can. Our human ears are far inferior, so we can't really hear shit. Zanuck reveals that the ham members are planning to knock us out and throw us in jail. Just kidding. But Jimmy the Chisel will help us break out, and once we make our way outside, we'll find a grisly sight.
Quistman and I fling dirt from our boots as we sprint for Juna at the Tears of Guthix. Zanuck's dead, we exclaim. rushing to the snake.
Juna communes with Guthix and tells us Zanek's death was premature, so the gods will allow for the death to be reversed. For this to work, we need to collect some tears of Guthix using Zanek's tear bowl. Once we do this and revive Zanek, Juna tells her that the destiny is to usher in the goblins into a new age. Soon she will learn what must be done, but as of right now, Juna urges us to stop the plot meant to foil the goblins for good. This reminds Zanek of what she overheard, and she explains to us that the Ham members plan to bore a hole from the cellar of the Lumbridge watermill into the cave where the goblins reside. The problem with this is that it would rush water from River Lum into the cave and flood the goblins' home and destroy their population. Our plan to stop this is to dress up as a member that is unloading the boring machine and infiltrate the watermill cellar. Since they won't let us enter without carrying a crate and Zanek is too small to do so, we place her in a crate and carry that crate into the cellar, and before you know it, Questman, Zanek, and I are fighting for our lives. The Ham members attack, but we leave them defeated, but not before Sigmund, the leader of the Ham group responsible for all of this, uses a ring of life to teleport out just before his death. Zanek and I smash the machine and report back to Mistag, who is worried about this encounter with the surface dwellers. Zanek insists that the surface is a dangerous but beautiful place and should be embraced even if it's scary. Mistag considers what Zanek says and agrees that humans aren't all bad, as brought to his attention by Zanek, who reminds Mistag that Zanek literally died on this mission and we're the only reason the city was saved. Mistag allows for humans from the surface to come and go as they please, and this will unlock access to Dorgesh Khan. The next quest in our series is another slice of ham, and it starts out by listening to Ambassador Alvajar and Urtag argue about the unfinished rail system that stretches from here in Dorgesh Khan all the way to Keldagrim. The ambassador is urging Urtag to hurry up production, but Urtag has turned the work site into a dig site because miners have unearthed some ancient goblin relics. We go to assist with the dig and bring some of our found treasure to Tegdek, who inspects them and learns much about the ancient goblins, their history, and influence that was taken from the surface. He notices some symbols on an ancient mace that we bring him, but he can't discern their origin, so he asks Zanek and I to bring them to the scribe to see if they might know more. The scribe has no clue what that shit says, but says that we can take the mace to the goblin generals to see if they have more knowledge of surface weapons than he does. Luckily, Oldak has a moving over distance spear that will teleport us right to the goblin village, that way Zanek doesn't have to travel all that way across a scary surface. Zanek gets blinded by the sun like I do whenever I start up a FromSoft game, and the goblin generals here tell us that the mace we brought them was carried by the strongest holy goblin warriors. The mace would be used to take away blessings from their enemy. This thing was essentially a prayer shutter offer. Friggin' cool. The generals get angry at Zanek for not thanking the big high war god for bringing them the mace, and say that Zanek isn't a real goblin if they don't praise a big high war god like them. Grubface interrupts and insists that she is a true goblin, as he has had a dream of Zanek last night. You couldn't torture that info out of me, Grubface. But he insists that Zanek was in his dream wielding the mace with goblin tribes from all around the world gathering behind her. What Grubface is saying is, Zanek is the chosen commander. The goblins gather everyone in the village to hear a speech from the chosen commander, but Zanek didn't prepare for a speech. She tries to reason with their warlike tendencies when... Alright, I had to plug my mic in for this. I'm getting excited. Alright, let's see. We sneak our way to the sniper tower, and this camera angle should be appreciated. Zanuck and Sigmund are in battle, and Zanuck asks us to take the shot while we have the high ground, but Sigmund pulls an anime move and captures Zanuck, taking her to his evil lair in the Lumbridge Swamp. He's going to tie her to the train that the dwarfs are building, so when she gets hit by the train, the goblin population blames the dwarfs and starts a war between what Sigmund believes to be two underground, inferior races. You know what happens next. We go to save her, of course. The goblin generals send us off with two of their best warriors that will meet us there, and we set off to go save our friend. Wait a minute. Do these guys look familiar? We have to direct these two hunks of goblin meat and have them distract the guards that are guarding the ladder to Sigmund. I refuse to watch somebody else do this quest to see if it really is this hard or if I'm just stupid, because I don't want to feel bad about myself, but God, this was hard. We find Zanuck tied to the tracks, but before we can untie her, we have to have a comically long battle with Sigmund. The only reason is because I didn't know what the hell I was doing and thought Sigmund might actually be the hardest boss in the game who never misses a prayer flick. Then I remembered the ancient holy prayer shutter offer and it all became crystal clear. We quickly untie Zanuck from the tracks and return to Dorgesh Khan, where Urtag thanks and rewards us for yet another heroic act. We can now use the train that connects Dorgesh Khan and Keldegrim, and we get to keep the mace as well. We may have saved the day yet again, but there's still one more quest in the series before we can lay the goblins' worries to rest. At least I think. Land of the Goblins is the next quest on our list. Grubface has another dream about Zanuck, and Zanuck files a restraining order. He tells us of the dream where Zanuck was leading the goblins to a land called... Give me a second. Ubusk? Yeah, I'm gonna call it Land of the Goblins. Grubface isn't like the other goblins. He thinks war might not be the only answer in life, and he believes that Zanuck leading the goblins to their home might be a sign that the goblins were destined for more than just war. To find Ubusk, we have to talk to a goblin priest in a sunken goblin city who more than likely knows the way to get there. The sunken goblin city resides near the fishing contest, so we're back here to meet Zanuck. Zanuck enters the temple, and I'm right behind her, but goblins only let goblins into the goblin club, so I'm hobbling back to Dorgesh Khan to get to talking to the scientist Oldak, and he tells me something that I don't want to hear. We're back at the makeover mage, asking her how to turn ourselves into a goblin. She tells us the ingredients to a transmog potion, allowing us to transform and then enter the temple. You get a cool goblin name during the quest, and mine was Beetlebrains. I like that. Didn't like that they didn't let me bring my cat, even in my inventory. We enter the temple, but Zanuck is nowhere in sight, but we can find her jailed in the Hazamogard Enclave? Yeah, that's close enough. Down here, there are 6 tribes that wear 6 different colors, and Zanuck is being held in the black tribe named Hazamogard. I'm just gonna be going by colors. Zanuck says that she asked where Ubusk was, and the high priest would tell her if she could pass a quiz on their religion. Zanuck might as well have just lit the big high war god's image on fire in front of them because they really didn't like being told about how wrong war was, and they threw her in the slammer. We grab Zanuck's moving over distance spear from the crate, and she's able to teleport back to Dorgesh Khan safely, but leaves us alone to find the hidden land of the goblins. The way that we do this is by getting very confused many times during the quest. We have to dye our goblin shirt the color of each tribe, then infiltrate and steal each of the 6 keys to the temple. I then do as the high priest told me and chanted the goblin's name above their grave to summon them and ask how to get to Ubusk. Coincidentally, each of the dead goblins we summon will say that their predecessor is surely the one that knows how to get there, and we have to kill 5. Named Snouthead, Snailfeet, Mosschin, Red Eyes, which is also my nickname, and Strongbones. However, even after the last ancient goblin, Strongbones still doesn't know how to get there, but he does know that Ubusk is in another plane of existence, and if the barrier between the world and Ubusk were broken, that a portal would open up and we would gain entry. So we're no closer than we were before, so Questman and I head back to corroborate with the rest of the gang. Xanix's excitement is contagious as she sparks the idea of using the fairy ring that's close by to try to get to Ubisk. Oldak agrees that he can make a machine that would be able to power the fungus and give it the life that it needs to take us to the land of goblins. We just need to flip some switches and adjust some settings, and Ubisk is gone. Destroyed by the Big High War God. Xanic and Grubface's safe haven for peaceful goblins was nothing more than a dream after all. Defeated, Xanic and I rest our weary bones on the only surviving thing left in Ubisk. We might as well see what this Big High War God left behind in his wake.
Damn it, man. I do everything I'm supposed to. I play by their rules and I still get f***ed. I try helping you out of jail, and I ruin your life. I got Xanic killed twice. Fuck, man. What's the point of saving a world where quest complete means watching it all die around you?
What's gotten into you, man?
What happened to we got this? We set out on these quests because we love adventure. We love finding new things, and that's how we're going to fulfill ourselves. That's the only way we can get separated. You know I don't like you, so you sure as hell have got to like you.
Screw you, man.
Dude, I'm just being real. This is what we're...
Screw you because you're right. Come on. I want to go mess around with those fairy ring things. They seemed cool.
I don't wanna think too much. I don't wanna die too young. I still don't wanna go outside. 'Cause everything sucks. Everything sucks. Everything